Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Ladita Sri Visakanditam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Siti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tirubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyaiva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistikhi. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Shakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreya Sayalokasya Dhanyam Swasyaya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, is the literary incarnation of the Lord. It is the literary incarnation of the Lord. It is compiled by the incarnation of the Lord, Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Sarabhyaya Namaha Om Sarabhyaya Namaha Om Sarabhyaya Namaha Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataram Yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataram. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to our ongoing reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, the son of Drona punished, and today we are reading text number 23, is it?
24.
Huh?
24.
24. Mm. Text 24. Sa eva jiva lokasya maya mohita chetasaha vidatse svena viryena sreyo dharmadi lakshanam saeva jivalokasya maya mohina chetasaha vidatse svena viryena Sreyo dharmadi lakshanam Saeva jivalokasya Maya mohita chetasaha Vidatse svena viryena Shreyo dharmadi lakshanam Saeva jivalokasya Maya mohina chetasaha Vidatse svena viryena Shreyo dharmadi lakshanam
Saeva
jivalokasya
Maya
mohita chetasaha Vidatse svena viryena
Shreyo
dharmadi lakshanam Saeva jivalokasya Maya mohita chetasaha Vidatse svena viryena Shreyo dharmadi lakshanam
Saeva jivalokasya Maya
mohina chetasaha
Vidatse svena viryena Shreyo
dharmadi lakshanam Saha. That transcendence. Eva. Certainly. Jivalokasya. Of the conditioned living beings. Maya mohita. Captivated by the illusory energy. Chetasaha. By the heart. Vidatse. Execute. Svena. By your own. Viryena. Influence. Shreya. Ultimate good. Dharma adi. 4 principles of liberation. Lakshanam. Characterized by. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. And yet, though you are beyond the purview of the material energy, you execute the 4 principles of liberation characterized by religion and so on for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. Kindly repeat after me. And yet, though you are beyond the purview of the material energy, you execute the four principles of liberation, characterized by religion, and so on, for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. Purport. The personality of Godhead is Sri Krishna. Out of his causeless mercy, descends on the manifested world without being influenced by the material modes of nature. He is eternally beyond the material manifestations. He descends out of his causeless mercy only to reclaim the fallen souls who are captivated by the illusory energy. They are attracted, no, they are attacked. They are attacked by the material energy, and they want to enjoy her under false pretexts, although in essence the living entity is unable to enjoy. One is eternally the servitor of the Lord, and when he forgets this position, he thinks of enjoying the material world, but factually he is in illusion. The Lord descends to eradicate this false sense of enjoyment and thus reclaim conditioned souls back to Godhead. That is the all-merciful nature of the Lord for the fallen souls. Translation again. And yet, though you are beyond the purview of the material energy, you execute the four principles of liberation, characterized by religion and so on, for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. So what are these four principles of liberation? Not mentioned in the purport. Four principles of liberation.
Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha.
That's what comes to my mind. Yeah.
Because the word original Dharma Adi.
Dharma?
Adi.
Adi. Beginning with. Yeah, Adi means beginning. Yeah. Yes, and then, correct. And in translation also, characterized by religion and so on. Yeah. Right, religion and so on. So, yes. So, a few points, of course, that the Lord is eternally situated in his eternal energy and eternally enjoying his pastimes actually in the spiritual world. And it is simply out of his causeless mercy that he descends in this material world for the prime purpose of reclaiming the conditioned souls, those who have been allured and who are under the influence of his external energies. And he comes again and again. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam, unlimited forms, unlimited incarnations that he manifests, that he whereby he performs various pastimes for the primary reason of attracting the conditioned souls. Conditioned souls, when they are forgetful of their nature, of their spiritual nature, when they lose that attraction to Krishna, we have a natural attraction to Krishna, then we become attracted to Maya. We cannot live, we cannot exist without attraction, isn't it? We see everyone is attracted to something or other in the material world. People become addicted to certain activities. People are attracted to one another. People are attracted to music, so many things. But none of those attractions can actually satisfy the living entity. And Prabhupada makes a statement, actually living entity cannot enjoy in the sense of cannot enjoy separately from Krishna. You can enjoy. There is material rasa is there. Material rasa is a perverted reflection of the original spiritual rasa. We cannot live without rasa. Rasa actually means attraction. So the real attraction, the permanent attraction, the attraction which really fulfills the inner needs of the spirit soul, is in relation to Krishna, is ultimately the attraction of bhakti, devotional service, which is bhakti rasa amrita sindhu. It is an eternal activity. Other rasa, material rasa, is not an eternal activity. Therefore, it cannot satisfy. It cannot quench the thirst, actually, of the conditioned soul. And so in the translation, Arjuna is telling, although you belong, you're beyond this material energy, out of your causeless mercy you descend and you execute the four principles of liberation. But we know that actually, actually these four principles of liberation are sometimes misunderstood. Actually, sometimes they are ultimately they are rejected, because most people who perform dharma, they perform dharma for material benefits. It is that is what is stated, of course. Such kind of dharma projito kaitavatra, is rejected in the pages of the Bhagavatam. But dharma, the param dharma, which is bhakti, that type of dharma is not rejected, of course. Savaya pumsam paro dharmo jato bhakti radhog saje. And so when that dharma is not pure dharma, then what follows is also impure. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. But when the dharma is properly understood, then artha and kama also becomes properly understood. Artha. That's artha. What is the meaning of artha?
Richness.
Wang. Means actually what is beneficial. Artha. But there is material artha, there is spiritual artha. There is paramartha. But also material artha, there is authorized and unauthorized. Authorized artha actually is in connection with economic development, isn't it? The whole world actually is allured and attracted by, isn't it? Everyone wants to make money. People start business. They go through different hardships, actually, and they take a lot of chances also. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Depends on their karma. But there is artha, the natural artha. Artha means what is materially necessary for our life. And kama also. Kama can mean lust, but kama also can mean what will fulfill our material necessities of life. So therefore we have, what is that verse? That is explaining sarva kama dugamahi. Sarva kama dugamahi. What does that mean?
All the necessity of life
Yes.
fulfilled by Mother Earth.
By Mahi, by Mother Earth. This is like, what is it? This is like, we could say, actually it is a mantra. It is a mantra. But it's a very important mantra, very important instruction, and in many ways a fundamental instruction which only devotees can understand. I would say only advanced devotees. There's one purport where Prabhupada explains how unless one is an advanced devotee, now you might be surprised to hear this. I should try to find the purport. I was surprised when I heard that purport. Unless one is an advanced devotee, he cannot understand about varnashrama. Have you read that? Do you remember reading that? There's a purport. Because it's just like, unless one is an advanced devotee, we cannot understand about bhakti. We cannot, understand about pure unalloyed bhakti, which is unmotivated and uninterrupted. So, in the same way, it's like sarva kama dugamahi, that Mother Earth, she is able to supply all of our authorized material needs, not all of our unauthorized, material desires. What is that statement? That nature can fulfill all of our needs, but nature cannot fulfill all of our greed. When we are greedy, when we're not Krishna conscious, we are greedy. We are greedy because we think more and more. The more I have, the more I can get, the more I will be happy, the more I'll be successful. This is materialistic consciousness. And that is, we see this everywhere, in individuals and also in governments around the world who are what is it? Are destroying, actually. You know this expression, what is called fracking. You know fracking? Fracking is a method of extracting oil from the earth, and it is, it's a very unnatural way to take oil, which is in so many ways actually destroying. They take out by great force and pressure, because oil is hidden actually in different minerals and whatnot. And anyway, that's a whole subject matter in itself. I mean, Prabhupada makes that or gives that example that in the past, because humans manipulated uh, material nature not according to Shastra, the Earth actually lost its orbit and fell in the Garbha Ocean. The many, even today, because of irregularities, because of so many, we could say, malpractices. Taking the quantity of oil to sustain our modern urbanized way of living is not natural. Taking water, that's another obvious example. Taking water so that we can produce not only one time a crop, but 2 and 3 times. And most people who have fairly good land, they produce twice, 2 times, sometimes even 3. And they can only do this because they have bore well, because you need water. But actually to have bore well to produce 3 times is not natural. To have bore well so that people on the 150th floor can have water is also not natural, isn't it? And therefore we are beginning to see very serious signs of Mother Earth feeling the feeling the pains that are there actually, because we are more or less um, um, severely exploiting Mother Nature, depleting her natural resources at a rate never seen before actually in history. So it's important for our devotees to understand the real meaning of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Then when it is tinged with material purposes, when it is for simply our to satisfy our greed, then that is to be rejected. But in many, many ways, this is what the proper understanding of Varnashrama Dharma, especially Daiva Varnashrama Dharma, combines perfectly the spiritual dimension as well as the material dimension. It's interesting, actually, yesterday in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we were reading how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he is visiting South India, he meets with the Tattvavadis, the Tattvavadi Vaishnavas. And we're just beginning to read that section. Lord Chaitanya agreed to meet with the Tattvavadi Vaishnavas. Initially, they thought Lord Chaitanya was a Mayavadi, so they didn't want to speak to him. Then, when they saw him chanting and dancing, oh, he's a Vaishnava. Then they approached him. But immediately, Lord Chaitanya could understand that they were very proud. And so this whole discussion was started. Lord Chaitanya asked, it's kind of a little bit similar to the meeting of Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy, actually, because he asked them, like he asked, Ramananda Roy, what is the best means to achieve the perfection of life? And so these Tattvavadi Vaishnavas, they answered, Varnashram. By following Varnashrama, by having society divided into 4 Varnas and 4 Asamas, And by following these four principles of Artha, Kama, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, then one achieves liberation. And what was the reply of Lord Chaitanya? No, no, no. That actually, what is the means to attain perfection? Actual perfection, liberation, beyond liberation. What answer did Lord Chaitanya, for those who were there? You were there, you were there yesterday. What did Lord Chaitanya reply? He explained that by Sravanam and Kirtanam, by hearing and chanting, by the practice of bhakti devotional service, that is how we attain the perfection of life, which is true, you see. So sometimes devotees will say, oh, just see. Again, Lord Chaitanya rejects Varnashrama when speaking with Rai Ramananda, and he also again rejects Varnashrama when speaking with the Vaishnava Tattvavadis. So how to understand this? We can only understand it by having a clear notion of these two levels, which means also supporting these within these two levels of dharma. There are two levels of dharma, both of which are eternal, and both of which stand on, are supported by very scientific principles. And that is there in our Shastra, that is explained by our Vaishnavacharyas, what we call spiritual Swadharma. Spiritual Swadharma, which is bhakti, pure devotional service, without any tinge of material contamination, without any tinge of karma, without any tinge of jnana. Karma and jnana for material benefit. So there is that level, spiritual Swadharma, but there is also, which we don't see today. I mean, obviously in general society, but even amongst our devotee communities or devotees in general, we have less, we don't talk about this to a large extent because we are not understanding this whole dimension, which is actually very critical and important to understand. I'm talking about the material Swadharma, you see. Because if we neglect the spiritual Swadharma is dealing with Krishna's energy, beginning with Mother Bhumi, with the land. So how we can profess to be, how we can say that we are devotees of Krishna when we are not understanding that by certain activities that we're doing, we are actually contributing to the destruction of Krishna's energy, Mother Bhumi, isn't it? Those who say, for example, that it's okay, you know, whatever's on the market you buy, but we know that whatever's on the market in terms of food is not proper food to actually offer to the Lord, and that it is the more we know how the whole modern system of agriculture, of dairy, so these two things immediately are connected with what is very fundamental in the Vedic culture, which are, you know, it's a theme that we bring up many times, that we have to bring up many times actually, because it's not understood. The theme of what is called the three gifts of nature. What are the three gifts of nature? Milk, bread, and butter. No?
Cow,
Huh?
cow,
Cows,
land,
land,
knowledge.
and knowledge. Yes, these are the three gifts of nature. And unless we know how to properly handle or utilize uh, these three gifts of nature, then we are we are not understanding about dharma. So dharma, in other words, dharma is not simply spiritual activity. It is proper material activities, of course, dovetail in Krishna's service. And it's unfortunate that so many of our devotees think that this is Maya, that this is not necessary. Why bother about studying, knowing these things?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because every day we are eating, and if we are allowing to, what are we doing when we are eating food which is contaminated? Well, we become contaminated also. We become impure. And that is why, in the Vedic culture, one of the basic and fundamental practices is that one is meant to grow one's own food. Of course, immediately people will say, well, that's totally impractical. We're living in the city.
Yeah.
We're going to work every day. How we can grow our own food?
If all say impractical, then
Yes.
if all said grow on our own food is not practical.
Yes.
So if everyone said, yeah, not practical,
then we starve.
I mean, no one is growing food.
Then no one, yeah. If it's not right, just wait for the whatever. So these are because the text here is mentioning how when the Lord descends, then he executes the four principles of liberation, beginning with dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, but according to Shastra. And in modern day society, many people are religious, many people are doing some kind of economic activity. Everyone is kama, doing activities to satisfy, but generally it is, yeah, that's the point. Generally, these activities are performed not in keeping with Shastra, isn't it? Because in the Bhagavatam also it explains about the different types of dharma. But there's only one eternal, there's one eternal dharma, there's one pure dharma, which is Sanatan dharma, which is meant to be understood on these two levels. The spiritual level, actually Prabhupada even mentions, rather Srila Rupa Goswami mentions that our eternal dharma is above spiritual. Why? Because when Srila Rupa Goswami explains three levels of happiness, he mentions material happiness, then second, what's the second level of happiness? Spiritual happiness. And what's the third level of happiness? Devotional happiness, right? He makes that distinction. That means that actually it is not, we cannot actually attain full liberation unless we come to the devotional level, unless we come to the devotional happiness. And devotional happiness is only possible when we perform pure devotional service. So these topics naturally are related with the principles of dharma, and it means what Arjuna is mentioning here is that Lord Krishna, when he descends, he comes to teach us these two principles. What does Krishna do in Vrindavan? He does many things, of course, but what does he? What's the main? Or we could say, just to get to the point I want to make, and the point which is being also mentioned here. What are the two main purposes of Krishna's appearance in Vrindavan, in which he rarely appears in Vrindavan? I mean, he rarely appears in his original transcendental form. Once in a day of Lord Brahma, and that may explain why people easily forget. It's rare to see Krishna. I mean, perform his original pastimes, which have two purposes, two main purposes in Vrindavan.
To show his eternal pastime.
Okay, and then to show his eternal pastimes. And there's nothing beyond that, right? So the point is that his eternal pastimes, when manifest in Vrindavan, they both perfectly address what I was trying to explain. They both perfectly address what is meant to be the spiritual swadharma of all living entities, to be purely engaged in bhakti, devotional service, number one. And he also perfectly demonstrates what is meant to be the material swadharma by showing what is Vedic economy, keeping cows, agriculture, Krishi Goraksha. Yeah, and also not only that, this is like obvious, when we go to Vrindavan, when we speak of Vrindavan, whenever we see photos of Vrindavan, we see pictures of cows, isn't it? Because that's Krishna's daily activity. But unknown to the vast majority of non-devotees, and unknown, unfortunately, to the vast majority of devotees, Krishna's daily activity is showing us what is meant to be the standard of Vedic education for those who are not Brahmanas. Vedic education is also to be understood on two levels. Normally, what comes to mind when we speak about Vedic education? Gurukula. Every day you take pictures of Gurukula. Vedic education means Gurukula. But Vedic education is not only Gurukula. Vedic education, when we speak of Gurukula, is for the Brahmanas, primarily, also Kshatriyas. But Krishna in Vrindavan, he's not playing the role of Kshatriya. His Kshatriya nature, he's reminded when he goes to Mathura. Vasudeva and Devaki, hey, you're back. Go to school. You're a Kshatriya. But in Vrindavan, Krishna doesn't go to school. But actually he goes to school. He goes to natural school. Just like somebody was writing an article, my school is my village, or my school is my garden. So Krishna's school is his cows and the forest of Vrindavan, isn't it? Yeah. So that is called non-formal education. Formal education means academic education, that is Gurukula. study Shastra, and you have to have good brain. But majority of people don't have that kind of good brain to study for hours and hours and to remember, verses, etc. So the majority of people, majority of young boys specifically, they're meant for this kind of Gurukula, non-formal education, non-formal Vedic education. So non-formal education is there, Canto number 10, chapter 11, text number 37. Can you check? 10, 11, 37. So that chapter is describing the daily pastimes of Krishna. And that particular verse is introducing Krishna when he is a little older. Then he is given the responsibility, along with Balaram and his cowherd friends. You have it? You can read it loudly.
Evam rajau kasang priting yachantau balachestitahi kalavakyai swakalena vatsa palau babu vatuhu. In this way, Krishna and Balarama, acting like small boys and talking in half-broken language, give transcendental pleasure to all the inhabitants of Braja. In due course of time, they became old enough to take care of the calves.
Yes. In due course of time, they became old enough. That means, how old were they?
6 years?
Yeah, 6, 7 years of age is when, because the first education is at home with mommy and daddy, with mother. The first educators, the first 5 years actually, children are meant to be with their mother and father, and they receive their first education. And then in a village, which is meant to be the standard way of living for the vast majority of people, then they start looking after the calves. And when they say, well, how is that education? That is actually perfect education in so many ways, which, again, we because we don't see it, we don't live it, and we don't come from that background, so we don't understand it. So in this way, actually, in the village of Vrindavan, in the village lifestyle of Vrindavan, the perfect sustainable economy is demonstrated, but misunderstood by those who are not understanding about Dharma, or those who are too materialistic. And also the hidden secrets of education. Vedic non-formal education is also hidden in those activities, because in that purport, which we will not read now, but Prabhupada explains that actually this daily going in the fields with the calves. This is actual education, because so many activities take place that help young boys to learn so many things. It's a whole subject matter, because like we read in this chapter and possibly other chapters, how the residents of Vrindavan and the young boys of Vrindavan also, and the young girls, they know the art of decoration. They know the art of making, just like in the villages and also here, we make these rangoli. Rangoli is one of the 64 arts and sciences that actually make up Vedic culture. So these young boys, it's part of the culture. They learn and they display these arts and sciences. They mimic, they speak. Krishna can speak to animals, right? And those who can't speak to animals, they'll imitate the sound of, of birds. There's some people actually. It's just a question of practice. You can mimic so many sounds of different animals. So these 64 arts and sciences are learned and actually part of this non-formal education. Some, yeah, like singing and dancing, different musical instruments. It's like, when young boys are in the field, they'll take one leaf, one piece of grass, not leaf, grass, and they will blow, and it makes some sound. Isn't it? You've done that before?
Yeah.
And they do so many things like this, which nowadays small children don't do anymore because they have this. I remember when we were young, we used to take some string and you make different bridges. Ever do that? String.
Yeah.
And you turn it around like this and you can make very complicated designs and whatnot. So that is called Krishna Krida. Krida means play. Yeah. So the Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys, they would be engaged in so many different playful activities. And actually, by playing, by this natural playing, this is very educational. This has been psychologically established that when one is in a natural environment, interacting with his peers, with people of the same age, then so much of learning opportunities are actually there. So this is the natural and normal system of education that is meant to be there. Whereas now we have invented school system, school education, which is not natural. We've invented that actually just for the purpose of creating, training individuals who can become like machines, actually, in factory work, or even on computers, for that matter. Not everyone is. I mean, there are some people who are creative, but there are some who are just not. A majority are not creative. So it means that we hear about these principles of dharma. They're referred to here, the 4 principles of liberation, characterized by religion and so on, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So there's a need for our devotees to actually go more deeply into the meaning of these terms, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So any thoughts or comments on this?
Vrindavan, Krishna's time, the Vrindavan boys not go to Gurukul?
No.
Not school, no school.
No. The Gurukul is for Brahmanas. So in Vrindavan,
They are
huh?
The boys, Vaishya or Shudra.
Vaishya.
Vaishya.
In Vrindavan?
Vrindavan. Yeah, mostly it is Vaishya. Huh? There are a few Brahmanas, but mostly the boys.
Kshatriya. I think Prabhuji mentioned about Kshatriya. Kshatriya is not going to Gurukula in Vrindavan.
I've not read about Kshatriyas going to Gurukula in Vrindavan. When Krishna and Balaram go to Mathura, that's when the subject matter of Gurukul comes up and education, Kshatriya education, isn't it, for Krishna and Balaram?
It's look like the different place. Like in Vrindavan, it's mostly practicing Vaishya.
Yes.
In Mathura, there's some Kshatriyas.
Well, because Vrindavan is a village and Mathura is a city, isn't it? So we were having some discussion the other day. Gordon Prabhu was telling that actually villages, only Vaishyas stay in villages. I think you were mentioning. Mostly.
Vaishyas should be.
Yes. But we see here in India how there are different types of villages. I was giving the example of Shantipur. Shantipur, where Advaita Acharya resided, is a village of Brahmanas. We have Ghosh villages, which are, there are some villages that are, Ghosh are more like Kshatriya. Then there are villages that are mostly Shudra. We have this type of situation in India. I don't know about Indonesia.
Village also different section.
Yeah, in some villages, yeah, they'll have people who are of a particular community will live geographically together, which is natural. And like in India, they have what is called panchayat. Panchayat means 5. Pancha. 5 people, I read this somewhere, make up the leadership within the village. One from Kshatriya, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, representative. And then a 5th one, I forget which one. But the system of Panchayat, I think, was introduced later, because normally to administration is generally, the responsibility of Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas are, there are different maybe levels of Kshatriyas, just like there are different types of Brahmanas. Some Brahmanas are just able to do yagyas, for example. They specialize in doing homa. Other Brahmanas, they will be preachers. They'll be traveling. Other Brahmanas, they'll do deity worship. Some Brahmanas, they'll be cooks. Thakur. So different types of Brahmanas and different levels of Kshatriyas.
Just one, I don't want to go deep.
Yeah.
And Pandavas ask at least
one village.
Place, 5 villages.
Yeah, 5 villages.
Not one.
Right, one each.
For me means one of each.
Yes.
Means when 2 Kshatriya are living in one village,
not good.
How they do their duties of Kshatriyas, because they cannot live under someone's protection. So that's my point, is that the Kshatriyas have a mentality of leading, and they have Kshatriya type of mentality of servants. Like Ramananda Roy, he's not a Kshatriya original, but he could govern full area because his nature is fitting to serve Kshatriyas.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of understanding a little bit more subtle. You see all these things.
But for example, if we look at modern army, there are different levels. There's colonel, lieutenant,
Yeah, sure.
and like that.
Yeah.
They're all Kshatriya, but they have different level of responsibility.
At one point, they are not all Kshatriyas.
Now, at one point, they may not be
So
Kshatriyas.
there are high level of leaders and low level of leaders.
Yes.
And the high level leaders came together. That was the problem in the army of Duryodhana. They would not fight under the other person. Like Karna was saying, I may not fight under that Kshatriya. And the Pandavas could agree, but they came from different countries.
Yes.
And all the countries have one king, and they have an army which they rule.
Yes.
And then in that army, we heard maybe brothers or could be like living together, but still they have different responsibilities.
Yeah. It's a fascinating subject matter,
Yeah.
which
I think my understanding is the Mathura is not just a city, but Mathura is representing that place where more the Varnashram is prominent. Knowledge of the God's supremacy, knowledge of the God's instructions, but the pure devotion without any hint of Varnashram, I would say, is just the Vrindavan village area where a few Vaishya are there and others are just pure devotees. And that's a pure devotion that you can give up all the duties of course, and how you product food. So they follow the Varnashram system because they have leaders
yes,
like Nanda Maharaj,
yes,
but it's not so strict Varnashram, I think. Anyway, so I would say that as Gurukula is established out of Vrindavan, I would say that learning Varnashram is not in the pure devotional level, but can pure devotee protect others by teaching them Varnashram system, Davya Varnashram system, to develop their purity by that way. And then in one point, we can just offer them for the pure devotional service. But still outside from in the normal in the daily world, they can behave like a Varnashram person. But inside they are just servant of the pure servant.
Well, we know that all the residents of Vrindavan are pure devotees, and so internally they are cultivating their bhakti, but externally they are doing different activities, part of which is, looking after the cows, growing food, etc. Like
And they are speaking about Varnashram. They are speaking about different respect.
Yes.
So they are speaking that the persons who are producing food, they are lower than who is taking care of the cows. And Krishna asked the gopis some pearl to make their cows decorated. They say, no, we don't do. And then when Krishna is working with the field to producing pearl, they say, oh, I just see how low-class persons are. They are just...
No, that was Leela, no?
Yeah, but still, the consciousness is there. Leela is depend on the consciousness, and that's why Leela can develop so many beautiful persons because they have this Varnashram concepts. They are not taking care of really seriously, but they are speaking about.
Yeah.
I think Varnashram concept is there to make difficulties for Krishna to fulfill all his desires.
Actually, Varnashram is there to help these things.
Yeah, that means make difficulties because then more love coming out. And the gopis also following Varnashram and conscious to break it. And that shows their purity.
It's a big topic and a deep one also. Yeah. So let's see what happens today, because this is the day after the official elections in India, and we don't know if we're going to have work. who has survived yesterday's whatever.
Who win?
Yeah, correct.